What's up, guys? Let's just go ahead and get into it. For setup, the SB17s will be going into my dedicated theater. I'll be placing one subwoofer front center of my room and the other in the opposite rear, so I've got two in total. They'll be paired up with 18 RBH on-wall speakers, and everything is hooked up to a Trinov altitude processor powered by Trinov amplification, and I'll be using a Kaleidoscape for demos. Now, I will not be using the Trinov room correction on the subwoofers because not everyone has a Trinov, and I'm not reviewing how well the Trinov can calibrate the subwoofers. I'm only using what's built into the subs themselves to get the best response in my room. And if you've ever used an SVS subwoofer, they have a full-featured app for their subs, which is available on Android and iOS. We're going to take a look at the Android app right now. So in the upper portion of the app, you can see you can connect a subwoofer here if you have multiples. Right now, I've got one of them connected. This is the home page. You can control the volume here from a -60 up to a 0 dB. There's a few different presets. Under options, this will take you to your options within the app. Next option here is going to be the low pass filter. You can turn that on or off. It's variable from 30 Hertz up to 200 Hertz. You can select the slope. Next option is phase, which is variable from 0 to 180 degrees. We've got parametric EQ with 3 different banks. You can turn that on or off here. You can change the frequency from 50 Hertz up to 200 Hertz. Change the boost, and then you can adjust the Q factor. The next section is room gain compensation. By turning this on or off, you can eliminate or help to eliminate some boominess that you have in your room from these selectable frequencies. We've got 25 Hertz, 31 or 40 Hertz. You can select the slope as well from 6 dB or 12 dB. Next option here is presets. We've got movie, music, custom, and then default. You can rename each preset here if you're making any changes to either preset, and then you can save it. And then the last option here is the system settings. From here, you can rename the subwoofer to make it easily identifiable if you have multiples. For subwoofer standby, we've got auto. You can keep it on all the time, or you can select the trigger option. And then the last option here is reset to factory defaults. The first demo we're going to check out is Midway in Dolby Atmos. This has got some killer 30 Hz response with explosions that reach below 20. You know, I've heard the criticisms about SVS subwoofers sounding boomy, or they lack control, or they don't sound as good as some cheaper subs. If for whatever reason you thought that about the previous models, you can throw that out the window with the 17, because this is just as potent as some of the per listen subs that I've had in for review, and those cost twice as much as the SVS or more. Build quality and aesthetics, I can see where the extra money would go towards the per listen, but if we're just talking about performance, the SB17 can definitely hang. I don't know what kind of bullets those planes are shooting in Midway, which I'm sure someone will let me know, but with the 17s, the machine gun's rapid-fire successive attacks were incredibly nimble and tight. There was no mushiness or softness, just straight-up tactile aggression. And I say mushiness because I recently had in a wireless home theater setup in for review, which came with some subwoofers. Now, typically those subwoofers that come with those systems are convenient, but the included subwoofers, they're just all boom and gloom. When you come from something like that to this, you can immediately hear a quality difference. So not only was I hearing crisp attack, my room opened up spatially. It felt like the space around me was larger in scope. So when planes would move from front to back, I'd feel the weight of the movement pan across my theater. If you mute the subwoofers, it would just sound like there's some drones flying around, but once you turn the subwoofers back on, it'll sound like your house is about to blow up. And yes, the explosions have incredibly deep extension. They actually rattled the plates in my kitchen in the next room. And since we are talking about deep bass, we're going to check out the wormhole scene from Interstellar next. It's got a DTS HD mix with bass that drops below 20 Hertz. Here we go. Let me just say that my normal system has 9 subwoofers plus a 21-inch that is solely there for infrasonics. So I think I've got a pretty good gauge on how this scene should sound. Now, I've already pissed off the neighbors twice before, so I have this immediate heart-pumping fear level that gets triggered when bass gets so intensely pressurizing that my hand automatically reaches for the remote control. Luckily, I played this demo in the afternoon when everyone was at work, which let me feel the brain-massaging depth I was getting from a pair of these SB17s. In the back of my mind, I still felt like I was doing the neighbors wrong, but man, these subs can drop low and remain impressively clean. I know that these subs are spec'd to reach down to 15 Hz, which from this demo absolutely clarified that. So let's go ahead and just take this one step further and go a little bit lower and pop in Edge of Tomorrow. This has got a DTS HD mix with bass that goes infrasonic. Remember, I've got 9 subwoofers with one of them that'll do single digits, so my expectations might be a little bit more out there than most folks. And I haven't tried too many subwoofers under 10 grand that can actually do this movie justice. Now, the SB17s did put up a valiant effort in that I was able to create a lot of pressure in here. I did feel my ceiling vibrate and the room next to me did vibrate as well as the dishes, but I was missing that tingle in the air that you get when you hit 10 Hz and below. So if these subs are indeed capped at 15 Hz, then that'd be why. Now, don't get me wrong, I still felt like I was doing the neighbors a disservice, and these subs still go dangerously low. But most movies aren't gonna be like Edge of Tomorrow, so the extension that I got with the pair of these subs should impress every normal person on Earth. Now, size-wise, for the enclosure itself, we are looking at about 19.5 inches in height by 19.5 inches wide. And depth-wise, we are looking at, again, 19.5 inches deep. So this is a 19.5 inch square in all directions if we're measuring just the enclosure itself. Now, one major change from the previous 16 Ultras are going to be the new grills. So this grill is just a standard peg and little notch fitting on the subwoofer itself, so that gigantic metal grill that was on the 16s is now gone. This is just your standard plastic frame, and it's wrapped in the acoustically transparent fabric. And then you do get the SVS logo right there on the bottom edge. And again, this just fits right inside the little notch on the subwoofer itself. Now in the back of the unit, there is an OLED display which you can control the volume, and then by pressing the blue button, you can change some of the features that you would find inside the app. And there's also a feature here, which is called the flip display. So if you want, you can flip it upside down. So if you are reaching over top of the subwoofer, you can actually go and read the menu, which would appear right side up. Other features include the SVS SoundPath wireless audio adapter, which would plug in there. There is an IR input as well as a trigger. There is the unbalanced RCA ins and outs, so you can loop these through to daisy chain multiple subwoofers. There's also a balanced XLR in and out, the main power switch, and the subwoofer is powered by a brand new dual mono design, so each of the 8-inch voice coils will be powered by their own Class D amplifier. Now, specs-wise, this has a brand new 17-inch driver, whereas the previous generation had a 16-inch driver. It's got a frequency response from 15 Hz up to 320 Hz. Now, I did take a few measurements in my room at the main listening position. Keep in mind that this is the response that I got in my space, so I'm sure it's going to be very different for yours. The first one here is with the subwoofer placed dead center in the front of my room. I got a bit of a peak at 46 Hz, but everything else looks fairly good. The next one is the back subwoofer, which shows that I've got a dip at 57 Hz, but it is really flat from 18 Hz to about 46 Hz. With both subwoofers combined and EQ'd using all 6 PEQ adjustments within the app, I got a very even response from 15 Hz on up. I've got a little bump at 46 Hz that I could flatten out, but it sounded great as is, so I just left it. And this does follow SVS's rated spec down to 15 Hz. Now this is with no smoothing applied within the graph, but if I wanted to make the graph look prettier, here it is with 1/12 smoothing, and then with psychoacoustic smoothing, which makes it look just about perfect. At the time of this video, a single SB17 is selling for $24.99. I wish I could say that this is a much better performer than the older SB16, but I never got the chance to test that one out. I will say that I do like these a whole lot more than the PB16s that I used to own. However, my favorite SVS subwoofer was easily the SB3000. It was small, it had a very taut response that was like a mini jackhammer in this little tiny enclosure, and it had surprisingly good extension. But given the small size, you would need a few of them to fill a really big space with a lot of SPL. Well, in comes the SB17. If the SB3000 ate a can of spinach, it'd be the Popeye version of the 3000. Now, I know I spoke on how these performed in a dedicated home theater, but they are tight and tactile enough to be used in a 2-channel audiophile-esque setup. So with a little work and a few PEQ adjustments, turning your small bookshelf speakers into full rangers should be no problem. Unfortunately, for you folks that don't know how to make EQ adjustments, you will need to learn how to use measurement software like Room EQ Wizard. Now, SVS is supposed to be releasing a calibration app that may take a lot of the legwork out in calibrating the subwoofers, but again, that is coming at some point in the future. Well, now that I have spent a good amount of time with these subwoofers, I am confident in saying that this has now overtaken the SB3000s as my favorite subwoofer in the SVS lineup. It's not crazy big, although it is kind of heavy, and it can belt out some serious room-squeezing pressure. It'll be getting the calibration upgrade, and best of all, it comes with the absolute best subwoofer customer service in the business. So if you are a die-hard SVS fan or just someone looking to upgrade your subwoofers and you've got some spare change, the SB17 definitely needs to be on your short list. Now, if you do want to grab this SVS subwoofer, I will leave some links down below in this video's description. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.